1,000%. 1 and 3 zeros that follow the 1. 1,000% growth is how much more engagement I got in all of my content last month, from my podcast, marketing, to newsletter, and even social media content. Find out how I did that and more by listening to this episode
on This Week in Marketing. Hey everyone, I'm Daren Lake, and welcome to This Week in Marketing, another podcast by Metigy. Each episode, we answer questions or talk about one specific idea to help you market and operate your small to medium enterprise better. And we do that by making them easy to digest, short, and concise, because we've all got a business to run.
In this episode, we go deep and do a real-world use case. Well, I go deep into my 1,000% growth strategy by tweaking one thing, my design. So how did I ride the 1,000%, aka 10x gain train? By using Metigy's creative services. It gives you easy access to a world of on-demand graphic design. Other design tools out there ask you to do the design, not creative services. They do it for you. If you listen to this podcast, you are most likely deficient in time and resources side of things. Get high-quality designers at a flexible price that works for you. Enough from me. Let's get into how I actually did it. Okay, so this is a case study. So we'll frame this up into multiple parts. So we'll start off with the story, which is the client, and that client so happens to be me. And it's my fitness endurance sport brand. It's called DLake Creates. Part 2 is the problem that the client has. Part 3 will be the solution, how it all works. Part 4 is the actual visual creative assets. Obviously, this is a podcast. Well, it's a video podcast. So if you're watching it on video, you'll see some stuff. But from audio, I'll do a quick sort of recap on describing the images and then the actual insights. This is kind of what happened. And again, this is probably a bit more deeper into the insights of what actually happened. So versus the last part that was just a description and explanation of the images. And then I'll just kind of have a sort of just final thoughts that I have on creative design services and, you know, how it's impacted and what I've learned in it all. So here we go. Start off with
Part 1, the client.
So DLake Creates is an endurance sport brand, right? That's who I am. And it's headed up by me, Daren Lake. I focus my efforts on serious and committed endurance athletes that want to perform better as they age. So it's more of a specific crowd, people that take themselves a bit more seriously, not just the amateur group. And my brand also has a podcast. It has social media content, long and short form video, which is comprised of long and short form video, photos, graphic illustrations, etc., and a newsletter. So there's a lot of components and pieces that make up the DLake Creates brand. My main objective is to own my audience, quote unquote, air quotes, as much as possible on most platforms, i.e. Instagram and Facebook. I'm renting my audience, which is perfectly fine to do, but I have a long-term exit strategy. And I want to also be able to directly communicate to my audience. You can't do that really on Instagram. So first objective with using creative services is to get people to sign up for my email newsletter. That means the power users. And the second objective is for them to listen to the podcast. Seems like super fans are the ones that are into this, and then they'll share it out. Obviously, everyone doesn't read newsletters. Everyone doesn't listen to the podcast. People are perfectly fine with being on Instagram, and that's fine. You'll get your value from me in whatever way possible. I try to be in a lot of different places as much as I can in the best way. I focus a lot of my content on visuals because the best way to promote audio is ironically through visuals like photos, videos, and design. And this is where Metigy Creative Services comes in to help me.
We'll find out more about the next part after this quick ad break. This series grows by the support, hustle, and grit from entrepreneurs and business owners like you. To help spread the word, we'd really appreciate if you could make sure to follow and rate us with a 5-star review on whatever app you listen to. This will help all the podcast algorithms make sure it gets into the ears of other like-minded business people. Let's get back to the show.
Part 2, the problem.
So the problem, podcast content is long form. Therefore, there's a lot of multiple takeaways. Minimum 3 to 5, or more in a podcast that could easily be chopped up into bite-sized social media content pieces. This could then create 10 to 15 or more pieces of content. Social media, as we know, is a visual medium. It rewards people if they are visually appealing. That doesn't mean you just have to be good looking. It just means you have to have like good design and things that, catch people's eyes when they're scrolling through and waiting for the next meme model or parkour backflipper off a 10-story building. Podcast and email newsletters are audio and word focused. So again, the two places where I want them to land need to be visual. While the quality of my content I know is there, humble brag, but at the same time, I know my stuff is good. I've gotten validation, external validation from that. The core content, audio and words, it's just hard to market. So up until now, I've been hacking my way through Photoshop, Canva, and whatever other tools and skills I've acquired through the years of being a general creative, to make mostly presentable visuals content. And one big thing that I've always wanted to create was infographics to display some critical ideas and takeaways from podcasts and just, big out there ideas. This unfortunately is easier said than done, as most online templates don't work for what I was trying to do. I couldn't find any. And the time involved to figure it out just didn't make a good return on the investment being time.
Part 3, the solution.
I'm going to now use Metigy's creative services to create, revise, and freshen up 1, the infographic images, which were brand new. I never did those before. 2, visual quote carousel, which was a refresh on something that I tried doing. And 3, the takeaway carousel. So takeaways are every podcast I have like key takeaways. It was a refresh. I did my own little design on them and it was very average. So, again, number 1 is something I've never done before. Number 2 and 3 were already done and designed, so they're big refreshes.
Part 4, the visual creative assets.
Again, this is a video podcast, so I'll show these on the screen right now. And it's basically the main podcast images. So the main podcast is called DLake Creates, running for Masters of Some. Very long title there, but there's a reason for that. Get into it another day. And then it's Trees and DLake. So I've got like a sub-series. Think of it as like a TV show. The channel is DLake Creates and the TV show is Trees and DLakes that I'm focusing on right now. I've got a 10-part series. There's an infographic image. I guess a little bit of explanation. So it's me. It's a cool photo of me with the 2 iconic Sydney bridges, the Anzac Bridge and the Harbor Bridge. But I've got like my headphones on and I've got a recorder and I'm in my workout gear with my MacBook. So it kind of looks, it looks like I'm trying to, combine all of the things that I do. And then the other one's Trees and DLake. So it's just a traditional kind of a photo of me in some workout gear and Mike Trees, who is someone I partnered up with. He's an Instagram influencer, very large account. He's got almost 200,000 followers. And it's both of us. So then it's infographic, the example, the first one they did was 6 tips to race your fastest 5K. And it's got the 6 in kind of this perfect circle with a runner in the middle and then a little emojis, indicating what the 6 tips are. A lot of pink happening. And then the 2 lessons learned. So it's a photo of me for 1, then it's lesson 1 with a kind of a quote summary, and then lesson 2 with, again, a quote summary and little brown fingers, because I'm brown. Little brown emoji fingers. Then there's a quote carousel. So the quote carousel is a really nice, that was a really nice design to just make the quotes look better. And then actually I should have put that in there. I did redo the photo quotes. That was done really well. I like the way they did that.
Part 5, the results.
Overall, I saw an uptick across the board, crazy uptick. So social media, 2.5x, 150% increase. Podcast listens, 1,000% increase per episode per 30 days. That is crazy. That's 10x. Website visits, 4,263% increase. That is bananas. That's 42x. And then email newsletter, 900% month on month. So just to preface all of this, there was a shift in the content and a shift in the boost that I got via doing this podcast with Mike Trees. I'm sure that helped in the numbers, but who's to say that the design didn't help? It all kind of came at once. What's the, we don't know the straw that broke the camel's back, but obviously we're not breaking a camel's back. We're raising up the tide. So all boats raise the tide. So, we don't know which one, but the tide got raised. So let's just move with it. The infographic on Instagram. So just quick performance metrics. numbers are really hard to understand. So I'll just kind of shift through them and put up little graphics. But there's one post, the infographic, it got 2,000 accounts reached. That's 2x more. I was usually, that the actual got 2,500 impressions. So that's the 150% increase. So I was usually getting around 1,000 impressions. That's phenomenal. Some notable things that happened from the hashtags. It was about 15% from the hashtags, which is really, really good. Non-follow accounts reached was about 25%, which is really high. Got 19 saves. That's huge. 27 comments, 182 likes, and 2 shares. Now, all that's relative. If you have a really big account, those numbers are low. If you have a really small account, those numbers are high. But what's cool is that I've compared them to the last month, and that's literally everything is 150%, if not more. The saves and the shares, really high. Profile visits with 13. Follows from there with 4. Just all across the board. So we can go into other stuff later. This is just a trial, and I'll go into other details because this can get a bit nuanced. So there was the 2 lessons learned that performed really well at again almost 2,400. So again, 150%. And then we go through the podcast listens. Just a quick, after 14 days, I was almost at 1,000 downloads. After 14 days. So I haven't even done the 30 days yet. I'm just waiting for the 30 days to come around, which by the time you air, I should have that number. And website visits were up. Everything was up. Bounce rate went down, which is really good. So that means people stayed on the site and did other things. And email newsletter. Like I said, there was 40 subscribers in the month, which usual months are 4 subscribers. So I'm still new on the newsletter promotion thing, but everything is new as it always is.
Part 6. What have I learned?
In a world full of visuals, if you're a visual person or creative, you know how important it is. Since I have to double do the work to make sure the audio message is displayed visually in the best way to get the most engagement for me to meet my 2 objectives. Again, the first objective is to get them signed up for the newsletter, and second is to get them to listen to the podcast. Vanity metrics like Instagram followers, it just doesn't convert to real world value. And if you're trying to monetize a brand, just having followers, you got to do a lot more than that. I mean, you can pay for followers these days. So it doesn't mean that you could have a lot of followers and you can pay for an account. It doesn't mean you have engaged in followers that love you for you. So, 1,000 true fans is right. And you don't have to have hundreds of thousands, millions of followers to really be effective. All you need is 1,000 hardcore fans. And we'll talk about that another day. Not having a strong visual and design background for me means that not only do I have to create the audio, but I also have to repurpose it for video. So Metigy's creative design services helps me get sleek and professional quality design. And also so I don't have to do it. It's not enough skill set. I already have a million skill sets. I don't need to learn another one. Kind of know how to do it just to get around, but I wanted to really get to the next level. I wanted to go from, a 7 out of 10 to a 9.5 out of 10. And I can do that. I can do what I do best, which is audio content, write and perform for video. And I can let the graphic design services be done by a professional. So find out more about how creative design services can help you and your company do less worrying about design and focus more on what you do best at Metigy.com. Happy marketing. Peace.
Metigy.